Welcome to Empire Building, the podcast where we talk about building big businesses and even bigger lives. I'm your co-host, Seychelle Van Poole.
I'm Sarah Reynolds.
I'm Via Williams.
And I'm Wendy Papazan. So today we're going to be talking about coping mechanisms for stress, coping mechanisms for anxiety, and coping mechanisms for overwhelm. And here we are, we're almost a whole year into the pandemic. A lot of us are taking care of family members, right? We're parents of children. A lot of us have parents that we're taking care of. We're building our empires. Some of us are homeschooling. And frankly, it's a lot. You know, especially with everything else that's going on in the world, it's really stressful. And there's just a lot of pressure out there today. And honestly, the four of us have been feeling it.
Yes.
Been feeling it a lot. Yep.
Really
Yep.
have.
And so we actually had another episode planned for today. We had a couple episodes that we were going to record. And actually, we scrapped it. And we just scrapped it because we felt like we needed to have this discussion today. And so maybe I'd love to just kick it off with you, Sarah, and maybe even Via too, because I know you're feeling it all right now.
Yeah, I think one of the things when we first launched this podcast is that we wanted to make sure that we are transparent and vulnerable about what we're going through. And a few of us have had quite a week where we've had those moments of overwhelmed, where you feel like you can't handle it all, you don't know what to do. And that's where we are today. And so we are in active learning of what we're going to share with you today. And we're going to go over how just this week we dealt with it, right?
Yeah. Via's nodding her head over here. You know, I think.
Well, I don't even know what to add. Like, I'm just sitting here thinking, like, you know, it is a podcast. I guess I have to talk. I
was
can't.
like, she's nodding. I'll give you the audio of what's happening.
Like, Seychelle's like, let's narrate what Via's doing. Via's so overwhelmed, she can't talk. Is what But no, I think, I do think that there is this element of, I knew 2020 was going to cast a long shadow into 21. I didn't harbor any illusions that we were going to walk into this year and everything magically was going to get better. I think that there was an element of coming into 2021 and just almost feeling exhausted in advance.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then it was like, you know, all of the hopes and dreams you have coming into a new year, it just felt like so much. And then to add to it, I have puppies at home. I've got workers in my home finishing a remodel. My husband and one of my kids is out of the state because we just closed on an out-of-state investment property, which is, you know, good and it's all good. It's all stressful. And I've got a lot of work stuff on my shoulders. And it really hit me this week. I don't know what else to say. It just hit me, you know.
Yeah. You know, I find myself too, like in this like weird mode between exhausted and really wanting to have the energy and being hopeful. And I feel like I'm in this weird pendulum going back and forth. And so much so when we were even writing these episodes on like how to cope with being overwhelmed, I was overwhelmed at the idea of it. So I reached out to somebody I really respect and admire who happens to be my brother-in-law, but he also happens to be a psychologist. His name's Dr. Jordan Engelhard. And he has pretty much dedicated his life to working with adults and kids from a psychological perspective on how to cope with like role conflict and overwhelm and, you know, when life is too much. And so, you know, I think he kind of helped us take some of the things that we're going to go over today, which are the 6 coping mechanisms for stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. And he really contributed a lot to that because I think all of us would just be flat out lying to you if we told you we had this nailed. We're all in active failure right now. And so we actually brought in some professional help with some guidance for us for some of these because we didn't feel like we were the professionals to tell you how to perfectly do this. But instead, we really want to walk in this episode with you together through this because we're in active stress and overwhelm and anxiety here too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how bad it is right now. We had to go to a psychologist to get help.
I literally was like, pretend that your client is not related to you right now. So there's no
I don't know if I feel better about myself yet. When does that come in the episode?
At the end, it's step 6. It's step 6.
Yes. Yeah. So we're going to go into these 6 steps, and we'll be sharing some things that we actively went through this week as we go through it. But step number 1 is you got to figure out your problem list, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us about that in terms of figuring out our problem list. How long of a list can we have?
Well, that's what that was something that Jordan said to me that was interesting. And he was like, sometimes when everything is so overwhelming, you actually just have to stop and write down everything that's overwhelming you. Like, you can't go big picture. You can't go into this like euphoric world of where you want to be, because you can't see like literally your left foot in front of your right. You cannot see it when you're overwhelmed. And so something he told me to do, which I thought was really helpful, was, Seychelle, just stop right where you are. Get out a sheet of paper and literally write down everything that overwhelms you. And that can even be like making dinner, getting groceries, carpool, business, partnerships, and then, strategic things, like, all the things. You just write down literally everything. Stream of consciousness. It took me 15 minutes. Like, I literally just kept going. It's like, wow, this list is surprisingly extremely long. And so that's how you start. You start by writing that down.
And one of the things I would suggest, I mean, that's what I did this week when I was overwhelmed. A big thing for me is when we're pulled in all these different directions. We've got team members, we've got kids, they get sick, we've got spouses, parents. We're pulled into all of these different directions, right?
Yes.
One of the things that can be overwhelming is our life many times is filled with interruptions because we're involved in so many things. And so when you do this, I highly suggest that you turn everything off.
Great idea.
Yep. And just literally think to yourself, okay, what are all of the things that are overwhelming me? And just make a list. I always turn my phone over so I can't see it light up. Yep. I turn off the notifications from my team. I ignore basically everyone. I go to a quiet space and I just start writing it out.
That's awesome advice.
The more you get interrupted while you're doing it, it just adds to the overwhelmed feeling. And so just you have permission just to turn everything off and just start writing your list of the things that are overwhelming you.
So I love that. And I would also say I do everything you said, but I do it on my iPhone notes. I have no notifications on my iPhone. And in fact, it's funny. I've got my new Apple Watch on my wrist that I got for Christmas that I have never wanted. I've never wanted one of these. However, I've got some fitness goals this year where it makes sense. I have 0 notifications on my iPhone watch as well. So it's just a watch unless I'm putting Strava on or something.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I am able to use my iPhone notes because of that.
Yeah. That's and good. Some carriers even allow you now to cancel out phone calls from people that are not registered in your phone.
So it's an iPhone setting too.
Yeah. You can do that awesome. Where that's super
Same
helpful
with texts.
Too. Yeah, and
they
text
can go to
too.
a different folder.
Quinn somehow turned all of my notifications off on my texts, so perfect. I accidentally got that problem fixed.
She wants you to be present.
It's better.
She was Googling how to make your mom be more present
and engaged at home.
But just to cap this down, I think of this as a brain dump. Just to kind of reiterate, this is what I think all of us are describing is just this element of brain dumping, getting everything from your head onto, a piece of paper or onto your iPhones. And we've done a couple episodes where I've referenced a book, Getting Things Done. Right. And he talks about unfinished loops. And our brain will loop things until we can dump them. So it's a really important thing to do. Yeah.
Well, and so to take that then to the practicality too with the brain dump via is like once you've made your list of all of your stuff, you've done your dump, is then what Jordan recommended, which I thought was really good, is to then go back and circle what you have control over.
I love that.
Then in a different color, circle what you have influence over, and then in a different color, do what you don't have control over.
That's really good.
And so then what he encouraged me to do, which I thought was it's very like tactical and practical, right? Which I appreciated, is he said, then on the things you can't control, you're going to have to figure out how you can accept those, right? And then on the things that you can influence, right? What can you do to move it forward on influence? And then most importantly, focus in on what you can control and make steps and action plans to say, okay, these, I made a list of 50 things, but actually only 10 of these I can actually control. So then what can I do to move the needle forward on these things that I can physically and actually control to move those forward? And I thought that was really helpful when you're in a state of overwhelm to be able to chunk it down and be able to help it move forward. And so, like for an example, one this week that I put on my list is just a feeling of anxiety still around, like not having complete medical options. And like, we've talked on the podcast before, my dad has advanced Parkinson's. It's very frustrating because there's a lot of things that we are just choosing not to do to keep him safe. And that feels very out of control. But the thing that I can control is pushing forward on the vaccine wait list for him, calling his doctors, getting them registered with every county, like all the different things that I can do to help him get vaccines so that it does open up other things that we can control down the road. And so, that's just a direct example of something I was feeling this week and kind of the step to move that forward, to take something I can't control into a controllable action.
I love that, Say. So step number 2 is prioritize your competing values and interests. Which is really what you were doing there, right? Is like looking at what you value in terms with your family. Okay, what can I control on that list? And then prioritizing those things.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and the thing is most of us are can-do people, and we want to have a lot. We want to have a big life. We want to have all the things, right? And when you're that kind of person, sometimes it's really hard to accept that you can't have it all right now.
Yeah,
that's just the reality
right
of it.
now. Yeah, I think so. And our society is so based on like, I want it all right now too. So that patience is hard.
Well, and I think what happens sometimes is, I know Via, you have a big life regardless. And you have a lot of things. You have a huge job. You've got 3 kids. You've just got a lot of things going on, and you almost have no space for anything else in your life. Yeah, you do have some space, but when you have, it's kind of like, do you remember, this is so dumb, my son just got his driver's license, but there's this movie, it was called The Final Factor. It was like when we watched in the 90s maybe, but it's this movie where you're driving and then all of a sudden it's like raining and then like the radio is really loud, and it's called The Final Factor. And that's kind of what I think of. And then eventually something else happens, and then they get into a car accident and die that bloody death, in those
really uplifting.
So Via's life reminds you of dying a bloody death.
I know. No, but what I'm saying is like, it's like sometimes our lives are so full that when your dog has puppies, or you're remodeling your house, or you're buying a rental property, like you might have the capacity for like 2 of those things or for one. But then you get that third thing. And I know for me, that's part of why my business a couple of years ago went insane, because I had all this stuff going in my life and I just literally did not have the time or the mental capacity for it. So that's why we have to prioritize what's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that sort of led to me having sort of my breakdown moment this week was that I was presented with an opportunity, and the person that presented it to me gave me a really strict sort of deadline. And I wasn't wanting this opportunity. Not that I wasn't wanting it, but I wasn't. I didn't expect it. Right. And, my husband looked at me and was like, we don't have to do this. Like we don't have to, like, we have no, like, why are we letting anyone pressure us? Right. Or if we're not like, let's prioritize. What are the most important things in our life right now? What are the most important businesses in our life right now? We have opportunity right in front of us right now in our current business and situation. So let's make sure, I want to add in, because sometimes other people can put the pressure, and we're not realizing, okay, that's not, and I'm not trying to be a victim about it. What I am saying is you give permission to let people pressure you. Yeah. And so don't give the permission to other people to let them put pressure on you, and focus on your priorities. You get to control your life.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys remember on our big lessons of the year that we talked about on our lessons of 2020. That was one of my big, huge lessons last year, Sarah, was I can't let other people's problems and fires become mine. And that I had to make sure that my success was based on my priorities and remind myself constantly that success is not simultaneous, it's sequential. And I think in order to know if you're on the right path, this does go down to having a big picture view, which we're going to talk about on step 6. But making sure that how do you prioritize? Well, you know where you're going. That's how you prioritize, So let's move into step 3, ladies, because it's a really, really good one. It's the 4 Ds. Do it, delegate it, delay it, or dump it. Who does this?
I love this.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah.
So it's something I didn't know about the 4 Ds, but it's something that I've done for years with the delegate part. I've got that one sort of nailed. And so when I make my list, so when I do the brain dump, I turn everything off, right? I make my list, and then I put a D next to anything I don't personally have to do. Right? Anything that doesn't have to involve me, I put a D beside it. And then I actually send that to my executive assistant so she knows that I'm overwhelmed and I need help with these certain things. So that one I've got, but I love it. I'm going to start implementing the other ones because I think this is huge.
I think this is so good. And one of the biggest challenges that I have is I don't naturally delegate, Sarah. I naturally Superman it, and I strap the world on my back and I try to trudge it forward. And it's not a healthy coping mechanism by any means. And it's one that I'm constantly in stress having to remind myself not to do.
I'm sorry to laugh. Nobody was thinking it was healthy.
So true.
She's laughing with you, not at you.
Yes. Well, probably a little bit of both, actually, and that's okay. No, but it's I do the opposite though. I love that you naturally are let's get the stuff off my plate and get clarity back. I physically have to have one step before that, which is don't go try to strap the world on your back and take it on. You do have to physically restrain yourself from doing that, Seychelle, and then delegate it. And so my coach has even forced me as much to say, you can't even put a D next to it. You have to put a name of who's going to do it, right? Because
that's good.
I physically have to put a name next to it so that I'm keeping myself from taking that job back. But it's definitely a challenge for me. Yeah.
What's bad is I don't do that unless I reach the overwhelm stage, which is bad. Think about if we start doing the 4 Ds
daily.
every day.
Yeah.
Daily. Yes. What our world would look like, right?
It'd be so much easier.
It forces me to, when I'm overwhelmed, I then am forced to say, okay, I might need help now, right? So,
well, I have a couple comments on this. I do it every day, actually. I let go of the fact that I was accountable. How I view it and how I coach to people is we're accountable to everything being done in our empires and in our family and our worlds. We're not. That doesn't mean we have to do it ourselves.
Right.
As a parent, we are accountable to bringing dinner on the table every night, but that doesn't mean DoorDash can't deliver it. I mean, it just means that a healthy dinner needs to be on the table. Same with work, right? And so when I write job descriptions, as an example, I usually do 3 columns. I do me, an admin or a VA. Sometimes I'll add a 4th for tech, and I will just start check marking next to each thing, who can do what, what's irreplaceable for me, and then who can do everything else.
I love that. Well, and as we know, delegation is the only way to become an empire builder. There's just no way that you can get there. But I actually think the other 2, the last 2, obviously do it. We all know how to do that. We're all entrepreneurs. And then delegate it. We're all in some stage of learning how to leverage. But the delay it and dump it are sometimes can be the hardest things, because we do want it all. And we all want it right now. And so what the delay it does is it actually allows us to keep that thing that's important to us. But we might just say, you know what, this is going to be a 3rd quarter thing. This is going to be a 4th quarter thing. This is going to be a next year thing. And sometimes when you do that, it turns out that it really wasn't that important at all, right? So you get to do the 4th D and you get to just dump it.
I am so thankful you said that, because we are in our second sprint, if you will, of our 12-week year sprint. So if you haven't read the book 12-week year, it's super helpful with this. And it's causing us to take our annual business plan, right, and chunk it down into 4 12-week sprints. And what's been really powerful with that is it's forcing the delay on some of the things that you realistically can't get done in that first 12 weeks. And so that's really allowing us to prioritize where those priorities fit in, instead of just feeling like it all has to fit in this year, which means January. So that's been really helpful too.
So good.
I love that. All right. Who's step number 4?
Step number 4 is super powerful. It's called enlist support, right? And social support's such a huge factor on reducing stress, especially related to when you're an empire builder and you're a parent, a friend, a child, a business owner. Sometimes you're also a business owner and an employee and a boss. You have a mentor, a coach. You think about all the different roles that we have, and we can't do them all the time. And so there's stress that can come when you're trying to do all of those roles at the same time. And so it's important when we get to the overwhelm stage that we feel like we can enlist support and help. And that can come from leverage.
Or before
Ideally
overwhelm.
Before. Yeah. Ideally before. Ideally we want to have your tribe. Like, we're so fortunate to have our 5 dolls that we can turn to and amplify and be able to go to them and say, like, we need help with this. And you get this whole brain dump of amazing people holding us accountable to enlisting support. It could be a spouse, it could be a business partner, a friend. But you need to be okay with asking for help and understanding that it's not an ego thing. It's an okay thing to actually enlist support and help, because it's going to get you to where you want to go faster.
Yeah, and I think being vulnerable with the people in your lives, you don't have to be. We don't have to be superwomen. It's just, it's like we don't have to do that. We can be real people who have bad days, bad weeks, bad months, where we need to enlist the help of the people around us, and it's okay to, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. As you guys know, I had that moment this week. And what I ended up doing was I sent a pretty lengthy message to my executive leadership team, and I was super vulnerable and open and just said, "Hey guys, like, I've taken on too much. I'm struggling. And this is what I'm going to do about it. And so this is how it sort of impacts you, because I'm going to say no to some things." And I don't know about you guys, but I'm a pleaser. I think a lot of females are pleasers, because it's like our nurturing side of us, right? And it can be hard when you say no to certain things and you feel like you're letting people down. They were expecting to spend this much time with me, and then now I'm telling them, oh, by the way, I'm changing my calendar. I'm no longer doing that. Right. And so you feel like you let them down. And for me, it was so powerful because I was able to send the message to our tribe. And the real reason why I did it was because I was feeling bad and guilty for saying no. But I knew that this group would encourage me and would be praising me for it. And then it was sort of extremely selfish, because I would then feel good about it. Right. I would then feel good. Okay, I did the right thing. Right. But it did all start with me being vulnerable and saying, hey guys, I need help. Right. I've taken on too much, and then this is what we're going to do moving forward. So.
Well, and what I love about that story is we all chimed in. We were all feeling the same way.
Yeah, it was so good to see that.
What the catalyst for that was actually your dad, right?
What the catalyst for it was actually a conversation I had with Gary Keller about health. Because I was talking about me being stressed, and he started talking to me about health for 30 minutes. And I realized, like, that my anxiety level will cause health issues.
Right.
And I've got to take care of myself. Nothing else matters if our health is not in the place it is. And this feeling of overwhelming, like, I was having anxiety, not sleeping. I literally didn't sleep for like 4 days almost. That is not healthy. Yeah. And so making sure that we're putting ourselves in a position to where we're taking care of ourselves, right? So I know, Via, I
guess I was just referencing the fact that your dad wanted to have lunch with you and couldn't have lunch with you.
That shows my week.
That was 12 years ago, guys.
Yeah, exactly. No, my dad, like, who is like the most amazing man and like honestly one of my best friends and amazing leader in his own right, and just I look up to him so much. He texted me and he said, I need to have I want to have lunch with you. There's something going on. And he said, I looked at your calendar with your mom and I can't have lunch with my daughter for 4 weeks. Because my calendar was literally blocked so tight that I couldn't have lunch with my dad for 4 weeks. I was like, this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right about that, Wendy.
And here's the thing, like, before we move into step number 5, I just want to add 2 things to that story. Number one, because we're still on step 4, which is bring other people in. And I know we worded it ask for help. Okay. So, but I want to plant some seeds. I don't think that's always like begging for help in a negative way.
No.
True.
What I think it really means is reaching out to people. So Sarah was just reaching out to us to just kind of, dump it and get it off of her chest. And what that did is it just spoke to me, and I needed to hear that so much. And I needed to see that example, and seeing Sarah use that as an example empowered me to make some decisions I needed to make. I'm like, well, if Sarah can do it, then I can do it. Right.
Yep.
And so rather than maybe if you're struggling with like ask people for help, because people really struggle with that, this is how I've started to think about it. The word collaborate has been a really big word in my vocabulary this year. And I'm going way upstream on this now. And I'm like, this year I did it last week. I thought I have big job this year. I have a lot of objectives I have to fill, and I don't want to do it alone. I probably could, but I don't want to do it alone. So I started pulling people together. Hey, from different ownership groups that they don't have anything to do with our country. Our company.
Our company, yeah.
Completely different businesses. And I've been reaching out and having Zooms and phone calls and saying, hey, you're really good at this, and I'm pretty good at this. I would love to share this with you. And would you be interested in coming into our organization and maybe sharing this with us? And let's, work together and not duplicate ourselves, because we're in non-competitive markets and we can collaborate like that. So think of the word collaborate, if that kind of helps you, if you're kind of struggling with the like ask for help word.
Right.
I think it's more
So
about
good.
just bringing other people in. So I just kind of wanted to add that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So step number 5, take care of yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself.
We can't say it enough.
Yes.
Oh, this is not
We can't hear it
self-care.
enough, honestly.
We
Oh, my
can't tell ourselves
goodness.
this enough.
Yeah, this is
to
self-talk.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and you guys remember when Sarah shared with us all last week, and I responded. I was so moved by Sarah sharing. I responded. I slept on it, and I realized that me taking on as much as I took on fourth quarter of 2020, me taking that much on was actually really bad for my people. It was bad for my family, and it was bad for my empire. So it was really really
true.
thoughtless and selfish. So what I thought I was just burdening myself, and I was willing to kind of take that on. Unfortunately, my lesson was it's actually affecting those around me. It's not good. I'm not as good of a leader. I'm not as good of a mother. I snap more. I'm more tired. I just don't have the time for my kids that I should. They're not eating as healthy because DoorDash which means we're spending more money. It's like a spiral.
It's a spiral.
Yeah.
It was like Quinn said to me over Christmas, she was like, I get to see Daddy all the time, but I don't get to see you as much. And I'm like, I'm here. And she's like, no, you're here in the house working virtually, but you're on Zoom after Zoom after Zoom after Zoom. She views that quality time. Our kids view that so differently. And it was a big wake up. It was a big wake up call.
Yeah. I loved Wendy's response to our text thread when we were having this discussion and she said, life is not a race. And it's so true. Life is not a race. We're not in a race. And
Will you share that, Wendy? Will you share all that
Yeah.
you shared with us?
Sure. Well, so I just shared something that I keep on, I'm like Via, I do notes on my phone, and I just wrote something down that Tim Ferriss wrote. And it really what he's talking about is how the true measure of wealth for him is feeling unhurried, right? Because the true measure of wealth is really the time that we've got, right? And the choices that we can make with our time. True. And if we make $1 million, or if we make $2 million a year, and we literally do not have time to have lunch with the people that we love, then we're not really succeeding. We're really not.
Yep. Absolutely.
We're totally not. And then one of the things that Tim wrote about was, I think it was in his book called, is his Titans book. I can't remember the name of it.
Yes.
But,
Tools of Titans.
Yeah. And what is it? Schools of Titans. And he talks about Derek. He talks about Derek
Tools of
Sivers.
Titans.
Okay. He talks about Derek Sivers and this example of how Derek Sivers used to make this ride with his bicycle. And it would take him 43 minutes. And he would just like try to get there as fast as he would go. And he was like straining and he arrived sweaty and he was like, his heart was pounding. And then he said, you know what if I just take this at 95%? And so he ended up making this bicycle ride. And well, I know originally it was 43 minutes. And then he decided to say, I'm going to do it at 95% effort. And he was able to ride his bicycle and enjoy the ride, look around, see the birds in the ocean, see all these things that he had missed. And he arrived there feeling calm and peaceful. And he realized that instead of it taking 43 minutes, it took 45 minutes. And then Tim Ferriss goes on to say, one of the Navy SEALs mottos is fast. What is it?
Go slow to faster.
Smooth.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Slow.
Slow is smooth.
Slow is. Dang it. Hold on.
Yeah,
audio
slow is
editors.
smooth. Smooth is fast.
Yeah, that's
slow
it.
is smooth. Smooth is fast.
Smooth is
Yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, the point of it is that if we are putting one foot in front of each other, one foot in front of the other every single day, right? He talks about no hurry, no pause. And even if we're at 95% effort or 90% effort, we're going to look up and we're going to have everything that we've ever wanted, right?
Yep.
And we don't need to have a heart attack. Like you hear about these people who don't take care of themselves, right? And then they wake up and they're 42 years old or 52 years old and they have a heart attack. Like, right? And if you do that, that's not going to get you your legacy.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and we all four of us talk about kind of offline all the time that you can't build your big legacy if you're not here.
Yeah. You can't have an impact. You can't do the things you want to do. You can't win, right? Gary had said that once to the top
To the group,
companies, and Keller Williams was like, you guys can't win if you're dead.
you're dead.
So
Yeah.
It's powerful. So
Yep. Okay. Sorry. It is slow is smooth. Smooth is fast.
There you go.
yes.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Great.
Well,
Oh yeah, go ahead, Seychelle.
Well, I was going to move us to step 6. If you've got a story in between, feel free.
Nope.
Yeah, I was going to say, so when you talk about having your health, that really goes into the bigger picture,
Yes.
which is we have to think about how that impacts the bigger picture, right? And I think what you're hearing from all of us is, if we're not mentally together, if we're in a constant state of stress and overwhelm, we can't have room in our lives to take on the bigger opportunities like Sarah was talking about, right? We can't have the time to spend it with our loved ones, which is, something that I shared that we talked about a lot over Christmas break. We can't have the energy to do the additional growth opportunities and build our people and pour into them that we want to do. And so we really have to take a step back and realize that how we treat ourselves and how we treat our time is going to be a beacon and an example for everybody in our life around us.
Exactly. It reminds me of like when we talked about our episode where we talked about goals and habits, and that aha moment that I was saying, that when you think big, right, your habits start reflecting you start implementing different habits. This is sort of the same idea, right? If we're thinking big in terms of like long-term legacy that we want to have on the world, we must take care of ourselves to then have the long-term legacy, right? So we can't take everything on. Remind ourselves in those moments when you're so overwhelmed, like many of us were this week, when you don't know how you can handle it all, think the big picture and then follow the steps that we just went over. And I'm telling you, it will really make a huge difference in your life. It did for mine this week. I feel much better today.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah. And Wendy, before we wrap up really quick, think of it this way. We take care of our houses. We take care of our businesses. We make sure everything's healthy. Our brain, our mental health and our body, our physical health, those are our tools. Those are our things. And we have to take care of them so that we may give to others and so that we can be a blessing to others. And so we can build these big empires and be better. It's actually selfless, not selfish to have self-care and take care of yourself.
I love
So
that.
good.
So for those of you that are rolling into the new year and feeling that you're exhausted in advance, right? I love that. I can't remember which one of you said that, but I thought that was really
me.
powerful.
Yeah.
You're so good. Or we're a couple months into the new year, and if you're feeling exhausted, right? Just remember that life is not a race, right? It is not a race. We're here to be our best selves, but the only competition is with ourselves. And so just go over our 6 steps. Figure out all the things that are overwhelming you. Right. Create your problem list. Circle the things that you have control over. And then really prioritize what's important. You know, one of the things that I love about Jay is he's very clear that his number one value is family.
Yeah.
He's so clear about it that he put a domino on each forearm to remind himself of how to be a great father and how to be a great husband. Super powerful.
It is.
And then do the 4 Ds, right? Do it, delegate it, dump it, or delay it. And then get support, right? Lean on your tribe. And if you don't have a tribe, make sure you sign up for our Amplify event in September. And then remember to take care of yourself. You know, go back and listen to the episode on self-care. Self-care is not going to the spa. It's not getting your toes done. It's actually taking care of yourself and prioritizing yourself. And then always think about the bigger picture. You know, where do you want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And are the choices you're making with your time, right, aligning with your big picture? So thank you guys so much for joining us today. It's been, for me, a really powerful episode. I took tons of notes, as always. And so continue to go out there and build your empires, but do not forget about your big life. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.